Hold, ah, it started again. Okay, brother Taiwo, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
comrades.
that's me. Yeah.
Uh, thank you, Brother Kwame. So, just to summarize the presentation, um, the goal we're trying to achieve is African unification. So, it is necessary for us to study what the impediments are. Um, we do know that uh, even for African unification, the purpose is to serve Africans themselves. So I don't think for the fact that we know that humans are there are no human is infallible. Uh, so for that reason, we do want the people to have a voice in their leadership. It is not as if we want unification to be forced on Africans. I think Africans they want unification for all the right reasons to be able to take advantage of our population, to be able to retain our culture, to be able to repel foreign invasion and exploitation, and so on and so forth. But we know that Africa has leadership issues, so that makes us go look around the world because Africans are human, just like the Europeans and the Asians. So what is wrong with Africa? What is different? And when we do the study, um, I did share the results. But one thing we need to just just come out for the 20,000 foot uh, view. We know that autocracy is not what we want because autocratic governments they have unchecked powers, unaccountable powers, and so for that reason we don't want an autocratic system. Now, a democratic system gives everybody a voice. At the same time, we don't want a democratic system whereby all the powers are centralized, because that's almost like an autocratic system. So, in other words, we do want the people to have a voice. And the best way for the people to have a voice is to devolve power to them. So, what works is when citizens have consensus and social capital. In other words, the people who are making a decision about their leaders and about the policies that work for them, they need to agree. They need to have consensus. And what is found based on cross-country evidence is that countries with a majority ethnic group or where there is political autonomy for an indigenous group, they tend to do well on social consensus, so on social capital and consensus. The reason why social capital and consensus is important is because it enables the citizens or the voters to agree to elect good leaders. It also makes it easy for them to join together to protest bad policies. And then, of course, it makes it easy for them to come together to hold their elected politicians accountable. So, so if you follow the trend, you can see why um, having political autonomy, and this is very crucial. The cross-country evidence is very clear. It does not. It's not negating immigration. It is not saying that Africans should not mix and go into each other's countries or territories. It's not saying that they shouldn't integrate and have economic alliances or things like that. It is simply saying that when it comes to governance, the political governance should be amongst an indigenous ethnic group or a self-determined ethnic group. But that does not mean that that society, that indigenous society, is not going to have other Africans living in them. So just to be very clear. So that's in a summary is what we're trying to say here. Once we get that right, whereby those that are being governed, they can agree and choose good leaders, protest bad policies, and hold them accountable, then it's very easy for that good governance replicated across many African societies. It is now very easy for that good governance, those good leaders, to now begin to form alliances, security alliances, economic integration, have good education, public goods provision are equitably shared, and things like that. So that's really what the evidence is showing us. And if we look at African societies today, whether it is Nigeria, whether it is Ghana or Kenya, we see that our governments don't listen to us. That's primarily because the people don't have consensus to come out en masse and choose a good leader or to protest bad policies. So the leaders tend to get away with several illegal things. So our institutions get to be bought by them because we can't agree to all come out and protest all of these bad policies. So the solution is clear because it's cross-country evidence across both Europe, Asia, Africa. It is a human problem we're trying to solve. Thank you, comrades.
Okay, thank you, Brother Tao, for your summary. Brother Pigeon, has Brother Pigeon come back?
No, I
he
don't see him.
hasn't. He
I don't
hasn't.
see him, no.
So as he hasn't, we'll ask Brother Nkrumah then to do his presentation, which is an alternative view. Brother Nkrumah, are you ready?
Yeah, you're asking me if I'm ready?
Yeah. Can you how long will you need for your presentation?
Could I get 10 to 15 minutes?
Yeah, you can have as much as you need. It's a free space.
Okay. So could I start now?
We are open. Yeah, we are open to all views. So by all means, yeah, you can start now. The time is 8 o'clock. You have up to 8:15, which you've requested to do your presentation. Thank you. Carry on. Hold on, Brother Nkrumah.
Yeah, Ambassador Francis has got his hand up.
Yeah, Chishala's hand is up. Let's hear what he has to say first. Ambassador, unmute yourself. Yes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, you muted again?
Yeah. Ambassador, unmute yourself again, and then you can speak. Yeah.
That's better. That's fine now.
I'll lower your hand in the meantime.
Thank you very much. Good evening and good afternoon, all the fellow people of African descent all over the world. I am Ambassador Dr. Francis Chishala calling from Zambia. I am in charge of all the Black people of African descent with disabilities. I have joined this gathering full of brains of Africa from Global Pan-Africanism Network, Disability Department, which I head as the Global Special Rapporteur, People of African Descent with Disabilities. My concern is in a tandem with my predecessor speaker, who has just alluded to the truth that we all need to unite. We don't need to compromise. This is our continent. We need to unite both the Africans in Africa and the African in the diaspora. We need a solid unification of all the Black people all over the world, so that we don't need to give chances to those people who have failed to look after the African continent and its own resources. We are tired of all the problems. We are tired of stereotyping. We need to unite. We need one currency. We need one army, one passport, one Africa, and one people. I submit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. So Ambassador has reiterated what is effectively the CSG's position and the Kwame Nkrumah position on unification. So thank you very much, Ambassador. So let's hear from Brother Nkrumah. Brother Nkrumah, it's 2 minutes past 8. you have up to 70 minutes past 8. 15 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. And I just want people to know before I start talking that I love everybody in the world. Black, white, brown, green, because there are a few Vulcans among us, and whatever else. However, Black people are the ones that need the most help. We are the ones that are always at the bottom of the ladder, and we need to pull ourselves out of this hole. So don't get me wrong when I say certain things. It's not, I'm not racist, but a Black man cannot be racist. And we could talk about that afterwards. But let me start off by saying that the world is controlled by an apartheid white supremacist system. And everything is rigged for them to continue to have control over the world. There's no such thing as Western democracy. There's only democracy, which is designed and rigged to continue the enslavement of the world. It is a continuation of our enslavement and the colonialism, etc. This world apartheid system is taking us into the pits of hell. And if y'all don't realize that and want to continue holding on to this Western world view of life, you can do so. But I have gotten out of it. Furthermore, what we need is not African unity. What we need is for Black people to unite. Let me say that again. What we need is not African unity. What we need is for Black people to unite. Whites and other non-Black races who live in Africa are doing quite well. They control most of the business, everything. It is the Black people in Africa that are suffering, mostly. When Black people unite, Africa will unite, and we Black people will regain control over our continent and all of our resources. I think what I'm saying is pretty straightforward, because a continent can't unite by itself. It's not like a man or a woman or whatever. It is the people that have to unite. And Africa is a Black continent, and we Black people are the ones that have to bring about our unity. Okay? When Black people unite, Africa will unite. And well, I said that already. Okay. Our solution is for us to embrace our ancient Black spirituality, which is something that I've been practicing since 1985. Okay? And for true unity to take place, each and every one of us must be encouraged, taught, nurtured to perfect our characters. How could we unite with each other when there's hatred, anger, jealousies, and apathy, and all sorts of miseducation that is in our spirits and in our minds? Not to mention the tribalism and stuff, which is not an African thing. All right? And our ancient Black spirituality will provide the necessary brain surgery via your meditation, your diet, your rituals, to bring about the changes that we need to bring about in the minds of Black people. Okay? And I'm responding now to certain statements that were made. We never choose our governments except when we have coups like in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Don't fool yourself with this democracy thing. It's a hypocrisy. And another thing that is keeping us back is the mere thought that we think we are human beings. We are not human beings. Our ancient Black ancestors never considered ourselves human beings. If the European want to consider it, the European is a human being. And you know what about the human being? The air is human. And when somebody tells you about your faults, you just say, hey, I know that is wrong, but I'm only human. It's a cop-out. Calling yourself a human being is an insult. Who you are as a divine being. I am not even a Christian, but I know the Bible better than many Christians. And in the Bible, it tells you that God made man in its own image and likeness. A human being can never be the image and likeness of God. Never. So these are some of the things that are keeping us back. Okay? And I am not asking you, I'm telling you, our ancient Black spirituality has all the solutions to every single problem that Black people have and that the world has, for that matter. White people cannot save this world. Chinese people cannot save this world. Nobody else could save this world but Black people. And we need to wake up to this reality, and we need to have classes in our ancient Black spirituality. It's as simple as that. I don't want to get into all of that now because, you know, it's going to take us along a long road, but we need to get into it as soon as possible. When anybody goes to Africa today, what we see is not African culture. What we see is remnants of African culture. Remnants of African culture. That's why nothing could work for us. We are working in a system that is designed to control and enslave us. So once you try to compete, in other words, you're trying to use what our slave masters put in place to free ourselves. You can't do that. Democracy, it's a hypocrisy. And if you think about the whole democratic rule, majority vote wins. So you're trying to tell me if 100 parents have a vote to allow our children to use cocaine, and 99 parents say, yes, we should give our children cocaine, and one parent saying, no, we should not give our children cocaine. Are you trying to tell me that those 99 parents should win the vote and we should start giving our children cocaine? Democracy is a farce. Life is about what is correct in the eyes of God and not what the majority of people say. Okay, I will end it there. I'm sure I took less than 15 minutes, but I will end it there. And we need to discuss everything that I have said here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Brother Nkrumah, thank you very much. Yes, we need to discuss everything you've said here. So do we need to discuss what Brother Taiwo said, and so do we need to discuss what Brother Pigeon also said, which, as he was offline, he couldn't present, but
I'm here.
He can now present. So I know. So Brother Pigeon, present your summary. I know you went off air. So present your summary of your presentation from last week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Permit me to appreciate those who have spoken before me, and apologies for getting offline a bit due to some power issues.
But I think you can't control the power in Kenya. We know that. So don't apologize for it.
Okay. I actually presented in regards to various ethnicity or so-called tribes in Africa. But it's also very important to tie to a suggestion, Brother Kwame, which you said. And I think out of our two conversations, we had reached a level whereby we were agreeing that the unity of Africa will need to be actually taking place in political aspect, but in terms of what system should we use for governance or actually managing that unity. As you can see, the democratic system called election in the reports of the continent actually is failing. So even if you have to unite Africa, on what basis of systems, either elections or democracy, will you have to use that can unite it? But apart from that, also, we actually realize that there's a commonality of language. Language unites people. For example, today we are using English, and we can be able to speak English and share our own thoughts and even our understanding in English. Yet we are not from either the so-called the Briton or whatever, the people from England. We're not. I've checked on the summary of Brother Taiwo in regards also to China, which actually the unity is language. So the question is, can the language actually, having a common language actually unite us irrespective of the initial languages, so-called traditional languages we actually have as a people? Because we have, as we can see, over thousands of languages as an African people. Then if that is the case, then the younger generation like myself have actually in country level tried to go beyond our traditional languages. We cross-marry, what you call intermarrying. I marry from the next community, and therefore our generation or our kids that come up sometimes do not speak purely or defend purely my general or my initial ethnicity. So they'll be speaking one common language, either they speak Swahili. And then in that period of time, they'll never be seen as is a Luo, or the mother is a Luya, or the rest, you see. So if that is the space, and in this space of common language, I'm feeling that the younger generation of Africa is moving towards a common new language beyond the traditional languages that then divide us. But the question again is, where did the languages start from? And did the languages created in purposes of the so-called tribes, are they created in purpose of division or in purpose of appreciation of our culture? And my biggest take will be simple. Irrespective of our differences, Nkrumah says that the forces that unite us outweigh the forces that divide us. Let's settle down clearly and look at what are the forces that actually unite us. And this takes me to the last part as I'm trying to wind on this, that unity of Africa, even as we move to the political unification, should start actually with simple unification. For example, people propose and we are pushed for it. Why don't Africa unite to have one telephone line? Having one telephone line, what will it mean? Why don't Africa unite to have one common currency? What does it take for that? Does it take for democracy and elections to have one common currency? Why don't Africa unite to have one common bank? Why don't Africa unite to have one common constitution for the continent, either borrowed by different countries? Why don't Africa unite to have a common aspects in regards to even, let me say, only those 3 issues or 4 issues: passport, telephone line. Now, why don't you unite to have some constitution, education systems? Because with one common systems in those areas, even if you're in different countries, can still unite us. But it is a case whereby even the education system in West Africa or the Francophone so-called, we are still having Francophone, Anglophone in Africa, where they don't have them in their countries. So I believe that the unity of Africa is not a mere dream. It's something that is possible, but it must start with what is necessary. And what is necessary is so obvious that doesn't have to take anything else. The only thing that stops it is that the Balkanization of Africa is spearheaded by the people outside Africa for the benefit of themselves. Why should today Zimbabwe using dollars or Kenya using dollar? Well, it's not a Kenyan thing or a Zimbabwean thing. Why will today we actually proud of ourselves of calling ourselves Anglophone and Francophone in Africa? Why will we today be embracing so-called names? I'm James, I'm John, I'm Edward, while we don't embrace our traditional languages and names? Are we ready to start embracing that or decolonizing our mind from that? What Ngugi Wadiongo say, decolonizing the mind. Because I believe that the status we are as Africa is to do with a lot of our mental colonization, more than the physical colonization or neo-colonization. So where do we actually have to find a root? By having common languages and common things, we can start aspiring towards a commonality in the future. But I believe the unity of Africa, despite of the challenges we are facing, is still a necessity. And to me, it's more of like a solution, because actually they say a people united can never be defeated. As long as we are still Balkanized as we are, as long as we will be fighting because you are a Kenyan fighting a Ugandan because of border, as long as a Rwandese will be fighting a Congolese because of border or a ethnicity or a community, as long as the Islamic community in Sudan will be fighting other people and Islam or Christian, as long as the people in the Sahel region or the Northern Africa see themselves as more Arab and not black as Africans, it will be a big battle for us. But I believe, to end this, that what you need is the unity of Africa people, wherever they are, outside or inside the continent. That's the basic thing, because unity of these so-called territorial boundaries are actually a creation of the Western power or implication to us as the people. So I believe it's possible, must be started to the future. Thank you.
Yeah, brother Brother Pigeon, thank you very much for your presentation, your summary of the argument. So to summarize then, from a philosophical position, we have heard two presentations from the materialist position. So both Brother Taiwo and Brother Pigeon's presentation is from the materialist perspective, in the sense that it's based on a scientific analysis. Brother Nkrumah's position is what we will call philosophically an idealist position, because it invokes the deity as an explanatory tool for unification. And as you know, our position is that we welcome both. The only thing is that we say that one is primary. Now, I have put on the screen, I'm sharing my, because in the last two presentations, I've not been able to raise the methodological questions. But it won't be long, it will be very brief, because that is a more specialist, if you like, argument. But I think by that time will understand, because he did scientific analysis. So if you look at what I put on the screen, talk about the scientific methodology which Brother Taiwo uses to make his argument. And just a brief education for all of us. Deduction is when you make a general statement, and then you interpret the world in terms of that general statement. So that's what deduction basically means. So for instance, you start without any, it doesn't have to be with any scientific investigation. You can start and say Africans will never unite, and then you find reasons why they will never unite. Yeah. So your starting position is that Africa will never unite, however hard they try, and then you find examples, and anything that happens for you will fit that premise. Induction is the other way around. Induction says that you come to the conclusion that Africa will or will not unite based on experience, based on what is happening on the ground. So that is the position of induction. The position of abduction is that both deduction and abduction are not the way to do science. Yeah, that's the position of abduction. So if you take induction, you apply it to the unification question, it would say, for instance, that if you take an inductive position, we say, well, why don't Ghana, Mali, and Guinea unite, and then another country will unite, will join them, unite, and then through, if you like, the unification, one at a time, then we will get continental unity. So you look at you look at it case by case, on a case by case basis. Abduction says that is not the way to do it. The way to do it scientifically, according to abduction, is to look at the question. If you want Africa to unite, sorry, let me pause, Brother Ram. Let me mute Brother Ram. Right. So abduction says that what we need to do is, if you want Africa to unite, investigate the forces, the powers, the mechanisms, whatever it is that is preventing unification. And that is what you look at. Don't start from a deductive premise, and don't arrive at that conclusion through induction. Look at it from the analysis of those forces, mechanisms, whatever it is that is preventing the unity. And once you understand that which is preventing the unity, then you can then proceed to unite. So that is the abduction, the position of abduction. Now, the other headline I've put there is correlation. So the the analysis that Brother Taiwo did is called correlation, where you look at one set of phenomena, and you look at another set of phenomena, and then you look at how they correlate. Correlate simply means they go together. So does this go together with that, or does that go together with that? So for instance, when there is a lot of sunlight, a lot of sunshine, people buy more ice cream because it's hot. So you can see a correlation between buying ice cream and a lot of heat. When the weather is cold, people put on their heater. So the two correlate, they go together. And you notice that in Brother Taiwo's presentation, he said that national cohesiveness and development goes with ethnic majorities, states, or ethnic majority countries. So in other words, when you look each case you look at, they go together. That's fine. The problem is that correlation is not causation. Just because some things go together doesn't mean the one causes the other. And I know Brother Taiwo understands that. So I think he understands that. So I'm not saying that for his benefit. I'm saying that for the benefit of all of us here. That just because in England or in France or in wherever they have ethnic majority and it goes along with development and so on. Now, I mean, forget about the fact that they stole our wealth, yeah? Forget about the fact that they stole our diamond. Forget about the fact that America, as a democracy, basically was built by black people, yeah? I mean, forget about all that. The fact is that they have a ethnic majority. However they got the wealth, perhaps doesn't matter in this correlation analysis. What it matters is that they have an ethnic majority, and that goes with stability, with being able to work together because they have the same ethnicity and so on. So the point is that correlation is not causation. So we go back to the position of abduction again. So abduction is saying, look for the causes of why you can't unite and deal with it. The other problem with correlation, which is not really a problem with correlation, but Brother Taiwo mentions, is that de Gaulle said something. I mean, with due respect, who is de Gaulle? Who is he? Who is he to tell us? Is de Gaulle a scientist to tell us what we should think? Just because de Gaulle said that he didn't think that a country that has no ethnic majority will unite, doesn't mean that it is truth. And as we've argued, just because something correlates with something else, doesn't mean that is a cause. So de Gaulle can say whatever he likes. It's up to us to accept it or not. In the same way as de Gaulle said what he said, so did Nkrumah say the opposite. Who should we accept? Should we accept de Gaulle, the French imperialists, who, if we follow him, means that we'll never unite, which is in his interest? Maybe that is why he said that. Or do we follow Nkrumah? Maybe, how about Museveni? Museveni says, well, he doesn't also believe in Nkrumah's position. So he prefers regional unification. He's been in power for how many years now? Over 30 years. Has he unified East Africa? No.
Exactly.
He hasn't. So clearly, we can't take him seriously. Because, I mean, if unification was his belief, he would have done something by now. So that is so. Just because we cannot accept the authority, what I'm saying is that we cannot accept the God's authority on these matters because he's an imperialist. He has an interest in the consequences of what he's saying. So we can't take him seriously. So what must be done? That's my last point. What must be done is that we must look at what all our brothers have said and then come to an understanding of what could cause our unification. Not what is preventing our unification, but what could cause it. And then see what are the obstacles and then find a solution to it. So that is what must be done. And listening to all the brothers, I would say they all have something to tell us, don't they? If you take Brother Taiwo, for instance, from what he has said, he's saying, and rightly so, that the nationalities must be liberated. So if you take any territory of Africa, any new colonial territory, whether Nigeria or Ghana, in Ghana, where I come from, originally come from, we've got the Akans, we've got the Evers. So the Akans include Brother DJP's group as well, the Fantis, the Nzimas, they are all Akans. Then we have the Gans, where Sister Ida comes from. We have the Evers, or the Veao, which is where I come from. The Veao are in Benin and in Togo as well. Then we have the Dagombas and so on. Now, what Brother Taiwo is saying is that each of these nationalities must have liberation, must be liberated, and control their own wealth. You see, and who can argue with that? Because one of the problems we are having is ethnic domination. And even where there is ethnic non-diversity, which means that one ethnic group is dominating the space, even within that, we have inequalities. You see, we have inequalities. We have one family controlling a lot of power and other families aren't. So what Brother Taiwo is saying, I think, is something we need to look at. And I think we, as CSG, although we haven't something we have discussed at length, we have a paper on that. And Brother Pigeon has read it. I don't know whether others have read it because it's something we have disseminated widely. So we will take that on board. And then what Brother Pigeon is saying, also, he's saying that the nationalities can unite. We believe nationalities can unite, and the ambassador has stressed that. Then Brother Nkrumah has drawn our attention to our ancient Black spirituality. Now, let's remember that Professor, I'm trying to remember his name in Ghana, has made exactly the same point that Brother Nkrumah is telling us. Trying to remember his name. He got his PhD in a German university. He got his PhD on this very thesis that Africans have an ancient spirituality. If I remember his name, I'll mention it. And that unless we return to this spirituality, he argues, as Brother Nkrumah, we will not go anywhere. And this spirituality is a knowledge system. It's the ancient knowledge system, which he calls the ancient Yahweh system. That's what he calls it. And that group, the group that holds this knowledge, are still alive. They are still kicking. Yes, you may not believe it, but they are still there. they still protect the knowledge. The head is a woman. It's an African priestess. It's not voodoo, by the way. It's not voodoo, by the way, but it's an ancient spiritual system. And if you look at their and I have had access to some of their teaching. If you look at it, it sounds very, very, very cosmogonal. Like the people in what do you call them, the people in that part of Africa, the Dogon people, something like that. So in the same way as the Dogon people have this knowledge that they protect, so do some African groups. So in other words, the reason these, what Brother Nkrumah calls African spirituality, are not thriving is because they are sat upon by the other two aspects of Africa, which we will see in chapter 4 of Constantism. What is called the Islamic Africa and Euro-Christian Africa. Euro-Christian Africa is of the two, the one that really hates traditional Africa. They hate traditional Africa so much that sometimes in Ghana, where I come from, it has caused problems where there has been fights between traditional priests, the Wulome of Accra, and the churches, where they resort to blows. Just for the fact the Constitution says that they should all live in peace. Christians don't like peace when it comes to their belief in God. Yeah, they are ready to kill. No, it's true. Christians, hey.
No, that's why I'm laughing. You're right.
They're soldiers of Christ. So they will kill if they have to, if they believe that God says this or God says that.
Exactly.
The Muslims also do the same.
Same.
It's only traditional Africa doesn't go around killing people, because
the Jews too.
It doesn't proselytize. It doesn't look for believers. The traditional Africa, the ancient black spirituality does not look for believers. It doesn't go around preaching. It doesn't go around killing people if they don't believe. It doesn't go around. So that's the difference. So to summarize, I'm saying that Brother Nkrumah has something to tell us. Let's take it on board. Brother Pigeon also has something to tell us. Let's take it on board. And Brother Taiwo also has something to tell us. Let's take all three on board and then move forward with it in terms of the political system. Because I think we all agreed, as Brother Pigeon said, that we came to the point that ordinarily Africans don't kill each other. So you don't find laws and Kikuyus killing each other. They live in peace, they intermarry, they go to the market, they go to church together, and so on. So there's no problem there. The problem is political power. So we have to find a solution where we have to find a political system that will enable us to live in peace and thrive. And that political system will have to be built on what Brother Taiwo said, which is the liberation of the nationalities, so that they are free, they control their own space. They're all the same people. They control their own space. They can come to unanimous decisions. They control their wealth, and so on and so forth. And then, if this happens for every nationality, then we can then unite in that sense. Which then goes to the point: how do we unite? And Brother Pigeon has mentioned something about one constitution. So maybe we here, as we discuss, should come to the conclusion that we need to hold a continental constitutional conference for Africa, to which we invite all the nationalities that Brother Taiwo has listed, all of them, and Brother Pigeon has listed. Let's invite all of them, representatives, one representative from every nationality and a diaspora. Let's come to a conference and let's start discussing what kind of political system can bring all of us together to basically live side by side and run Africa in our interest. It seems that this is where we are heading for. I'll pause there. Thank you. So that is my presentation, and I'll pause there. Brother Pigeon, there are a lot of hands up, so please step in.
Yes.
And let me take a rest so that you can chair chair the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrades. Indeed, our key concern is how do we unite? So credits have been given. So as you come in to give your contribution, kindly also spare us some of your thinking or your thoughts to give us a guide on how do you think we can unite. So I'll start by Brother Coco and was up, and then I go to DJ Mr. Pin, then Brother Sizwe, then Brother Taiwo will come in. In that order, please, we are having 23 minutes to go. Can you try your best to be maybe straight to the point? Brother Coco?
Thank you for the opportunity, gentlemen. And I thank you also for the brilliant presentations you have all done tonight. For those of you who know me, we have had several of similar discussions before. I recall having a discussion on democracy with Brother Kwame not long ago, where Brother Kwame was defending democracy, and I was saying democracy is bastardized. And unfortunately, I haven't changed my mind. I'm still of that view that democracy is a bastardized system which we have adopted or has been forced down our throats in order to control us. And if we continue along that route, there's no way we're going to be united. We'll continue walking this way to nothing, to this, The problem is here, gentlemen. Who holds real power? Who holds true power? We are forgetting that. We as the people, we hold true power. But it's like we have to apologize. We have to feel like we owe someone something, but we hold the power. This is what you call the agency problem. With the agency problem, you find that the principal who owns the power delegates their power to the agent. And unfortunately, that agent acts in a way that only benefits themselves. And that is what is happening under this democracy. The current system is based on parties. And what parties do is that they go ahead and campaign. And whoever has more money is the one who ends up being elected. Yeah, there are times when things are different or difficult. Like we have a situation here in the UK where the Conservatives have held power for the past 12 years and are in deep shit because the economy has not been doing well. Everything has not been doing well. So hence they're going to be changed in the next government. But who is going to come in again? Another party. Not people. The people do not have a say. And for me, let's talk about Comrade Pigbin. Comrade Pigbin ran for presidency in Kenya. He ran for presidency in Kenya, but there was always a remote chance he would have a look in because he didn't have enough money. If you don't have money, forget about it. So let me talk about agency problem again briefly before I talk about the solutions. Under the agency problem, let's talk about the banks. There's a bank, there are depositors, and there are banks. Or let's talk about the banks, the depositors, or the shareholders. Who really is the principal then? Unfortunately, you find that whoever benefits most of the time is either the bank managers or the shareholders, not the depositors. But the depositors are the real holders of power. If they pulled out their deposits from the banks, the whole banking system will collapse like a house of cards. But the depositors don't know that. It's the same with us as the electorate. We don't realize that we hold a lot of power. And again, I said, we do not have to apologize. It's how it is. All the services, we're supposed to get them because we deserve them. We elect the people. But unfortunately now, where do we hold those people to account? If they don't do what we need, we have to wait for another 5 years, 6 years, right? In some cases, for us to change the people. And if they don't do right, then it's hard luck to us, right? That is a problem. The system that we should be looking at is a system which represents us as the people. The sovereignty is ours. So I need to go to my clan, and from my clan, have someone who represents my clan in the kingdom. And then from the kingdom, then we can talk about the Union Government of Africa. As it stands now, we have party system, and party systems are not for us. We need system that represents us as clans, as people, as ethnic groups. And until we get that right, it's not going to work. Let's take the case of Rishi Sunak. By the way, before I finish, Rishi Sunak is the rich list is going to come out on Sunday to show that his family has amassed 120 million pounds in just 1 year. And this is the man who, after Harvard, worked in the bank, and then from the bank, his connections went into the Tory party. He doesn't know anything about the local level. How can he understand what I'm going through?
Brother Coco, yeah. We still have some other hands. Please just be straight. We can have another.
One second. My point is simple. We need a system that's African. Let's make sure that all the African people have a say in what is their sovereignty. Many thanks.
Thank you, Brother Coco. Sorry for cutting you short. We can have other time for the same discussion. DJ Mr. P.
Thank you, brother.
Let's be brief, please.
Yeah. I want to share my thinking on this whole thing about unity. And by the way, Brother Coco, I do agree with what he's just said. The real power is held by the people. We actually hold the power. Many of us don't realize that, but we actually hold the power. And democracy, like religion, it's just a scam, a control mechanism. So I agree. I definitely agree with what Brother Coco had said. But the point I wanted to share, or what I wanted to do really, was to share some of my thinking around this whole thing on unity among our people. Rightly or wrongly, my thoughts are that for us to unite, it really has to work on an individual level. We have to start with ourselves. Reason being is I believe that our issue, our real problem is a psychological one. Yeah. And I say that because firstly, we're a damaged people. And secondly, we're oppressed for hundreds of years, for centuries. And for that to happen, it must have occurred psychologically. We must look at ourselves as individuals in a particular way. And that trick or that psychological implantation has happened hundreds of years ago, and it's repeated through the generations. So I think that until we begin to accept, embrace, and love ourselves on an individual basis, and I'm talking about a healthy self-love for yourself, because you cannot give what you don't have. So in order for you to love someone else, you must first love yourself. So I think until we begin to actually love ourselves, the unity is not in sight. It's not in sight. So that work we have to do on ourselves, in my opinion, the only thing I think that can truly do that is personal development. Religion clearly doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It won't work. And the one thing I think we need to try, but too many of us don't bother or can't be bothered or are too afraid to try, is personal development, where we actually really do need to look at that person in the mirror and deal with what you see and deal with what you feel and work on yourself so you can begin to love yourself. And once you love yourself, we're on our way to unity. But until we do that, because when you don't love yourself, this thing called self-hate is, I think, what's holding us back more than anything else. Because even though, because the countries will never unite because we as a people are not united. And for us to be united as a people, we need to sort ourselves out as individuals. All right. So once we do that, then I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. So I really do ask to try that on what I've just said, to think about that, to look at that, to consider that.
Thank you.
Working on yourself is really the way forward for African unification and development.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brother DJ Mr. P. Sizwe, Comrade Sizwe. I'll go to, after Comrade Sizwe, I'll go to Comrade Joseph Anton. Then Brother Taiwo will be wrapping it up, and now he's back. Brother Taiwo, you'll also share something as we head towards the end. Brother Sizwe, just
thank you
maximum.
very much for giving me this opportunity as a guest to speak. I'm an African born in what is currently called the United States of America, where the indigenous people had this name imposed on them after centuries of genocide, just like the Palestinians, the latest example of settler colonialism and genocide. I'm a member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, the party of Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah, and also the great Kwame Ture, formerly Stokely Carmichael, where he taught us that all human societies, we're all human, we all have red blood, all human societies gravitate from small social aggregates to larger social aggregates, from the family to the clan to the tribe to the nation. Africa, left unhindered, would have been unified as socialists by now. Our party's objective is the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. Kwame Nkrumah says this must be the primary objective of all Black revolutionaries. This will bring about a level of unity and will solve all the problems, economic, social, political, etc., once we have one unified socialist Africa. So what I'm saying to you all is that a lot of the things that people talk about as problems, there have been solutions offered by many of our great intellectuals already many years ago. Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, Sekou Touré says that democracy is the people in power. So what I'm trying to put forth to you all is that we have to get our people organized, and we have to have a global analysis. We cannot liberate Africa without having allies. And to look at Africa based on the colonial borders that were created in the Berlin Conference of 1885 is a mistake. If you look at the history of what happened, as Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Omawale X, whose birthday is tomorrow, we give honor and thanks to him. He correctly pointed out, in order for you to solve a problem, you have to look at the history of that problem, how it came to being historically. Africa was carved into pieces. That's a fact. By all these different nations in Europe, France, England, Germany, Spain, all at the same time. Africa was broken up into pieces. If Africa had been left unhindered, it would have been unified as socialist. So all these tribal and ethnic groups and all these, it's a natural tendency for all of them to merge. And we got examples of that already in existence. China, 10,000 different languages and tribes have managed to unify and become a very powerful nation state under scientific socialism. The number one manufacturing nation in the world and a threat to the capitalist dominance of the world. But one thing is for sure.
You have a minute, please.
One thing is for sure, there's a global economy that was in existence hundreds of years ago, and the Europeans in Western Asia imposed themselves into that global economy, and they dominated to this day. Therefore, we don't have the political power. But seek ye first a political kingdom. We have to be organized on a continental basis with a continental political party and a continental army so that we can liberate Africa, because right now, AFRICOM, the U.S. has 29 military bases, and every nation state in Africa has an alliance with the U.S. except for one, that being Eritrea. So Nkrumah put forth this plan in 1962, how to have a federal government for the whole of Africa that was undermined by those sellouts who did not want to have one central government for Africa. We must study that. And the only way to do that is to have one government under what we call the All African Committee for Political Coordination, where we merge all the revolutionary and revolutionary Pan-African parties into one to kick those foreigners out, like they're doing in West Africa currently, and unify Africa under one government where we know Africa is the richest continent on earth.
Thank you, brother Comrade.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to cut you short, but I'm really looking for Brother Kwame to get in touch with you. Of course, Brother Suze said by starting that he's a member of All African Revolutionary People's Party, which was, of course, the initial conception of Kwame Nkrumah. So let's get in touch, Brother Kwame, please. We will discuss this further as we enter towards the class, because there's some announcement we have to make. Brother Joseph, and I've been holding Brother Taiwo. So Brother Joseph and then Brother Taiwo. Please, a minute or 2 minutes maximum, because you are having 8 minutes to go. Brother Joseph?
Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry that I have to be rushed, but nonetheless, I think one of the things I want to warn people about, that we should keep an eye on Ruto. Ruto is undermining the continent by the work he is doing. His role is to reorganize the African Union, and we know what he's capable of. So we need to keep an eye on him. But let me read a quotation from the former president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, who was overthrown by the imperialists. He said in Trinidad and Tobago on the 18th of April 2009, he said, quote, he's quoted as saying, sport is the best way of engaging every human being. It is a way of integrating our people. I'm suggesting that in thinking about the unification of and the liberation and the development of Africa, we need to consider the issue of sports, the area of sports, because we've seen what the African Cup of Nations thing have done for Africa, and if it's done even more democratically, it could help. But also, based on what Stassi says in a presentation he gave to GAC to the Global African Congress the role of sports, particularly football, in helping to accentuate the liberation movement, particularly in places like Zambia and in later in Namibia. We should take that into consideration very much because there's lots to be learned. And then one of the few things that united the West Indies, although it's a colonial game, cricket have united the West Indies. Well, we are weak now because they're finding a way to break it up. So these are some of the ways we can think about how can we unite our people using the different avenues, different means, the different areas of life, and sports is one of them. I just wanted to add that. And maybe we could have a session on that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Sister Pamela. Brother Taiwo, maybe 2 minutes. Brother Taiwo?
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to challenge us to, because 2 weeks ago, we looked at cross-country evidence, which shows that countries with low ethno-linguistic fractionalization or that have majority ethnic groups, we show that they tend to be able to have consensus much more easily, and they tend to have social capital. They build it much more easily. So my appeal to us is, can we try to disprove that evidence? And if we cannot disprove that evidence, then the next question then is, what issues do we then have with political autonomy for African ethnic groups that desire it? Because I get the sense that there's a certain concern or fear that autonomy, political autonomy for Africa's ethnic groups is a problem for us comrades. And I would like to get to the bottom of that. What is the fear there? Okay. And do we have data to disprove the cross-country evidence? I think this is very important. Otherwise, I think that we may just be going on with some desire, some passion that is not based on reality or evidence. And that is my concern with regards to how we go forward trying to solve Africa's problems. So that is the challenge I would like to leave with the group. I tend to go by evidence, especially if it's pervasive. And even if I have a position, if the evidence disproves it, I accept it and I move on. And so I appeal to us to look at the evidence we presented, try to see whether we can disprove it. And if we cannot, why then, what is our opposition to Africa's ethnic groups having political autonomy? Those that desire it, what is our fear for that, with that? Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope Brother Kwame, I've seen, is trying to take some keynotes on that. So, Sister Tapua, please.
Thank you very much.
2 minutes, please.
Yes. After having listened to all the contributions that have been made, I think I'm seeing a thread through everything that's been said, because what we have here is a mammoth task that has to be approached from all angles. So, but I'm starting from always remembering that we're thinking of the person, the one person. We could have a united Africa, but it's got to serve the individual. So if we start with spirituality, because spirituality forms part of our identity. And like one of our brothers have said here, part of our problem is that we've lost our identity. So it's going to be difficult for people to unite when they don't know who they are. So we need a very strong grounding, a firm, confident knowledge. A healing should take place within the individual, whether we want to call it spirituality or individual development, because these are the people who are going to be standing up for their own interests. We want Africans who can stand up for their own interests. So, for example, when people get to know their clans, get to know their families, it makes them more confident. And if it is done within the spiritual context of understanding that everyone's humanity contributes to everybody else's humanity, then we're coming up with a philosophy that unites people in their differences. Because that's really important, because it is from these differences, these different groups, the ethnic groups, that our power rests, because this becomes the units for which we kind of canvas for interest groups. And if we're doing it within the spiritual context of respecting everyone and understanding that we are spirit, and understanding that as individuals we cannot do without the other, then we are looking at ethnic groups not from a Eurocentric position, but from a position that understands that whilst we divide to make us stronger, we get into groups to form interest groups, as it were, that all come to the table and they are treated as such. So, for example, clan knowledge and confidence is inevitable, because once we get to the kingdoms and we get to Africa uniting, where you're talking of armies, you're talking of external threats, you're talking of protecting the individual within the African context.
Okay.
So, okay, right. So I think I'll just end there and say, for me, we have to organize from different positions, because everyone's contribution is important at some level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brother Kwame, can you summarize or close the class for today?
Yes, so I think we've heard from
announcements.
Yes. So we've heard from everyone, and it's clear to me that we still need more discussion on this. So if it's okay with everyone, we'll continue with part 4, and we'll continue with part 4 to get to the heart of the matter and come to a kind of consensus. Brother Taiwo says he has sensed some kind of fear of ethnic autonomy. I'm not sure why he's sensing that, because the position of CSG and actually is precisely the liberation of our ethnic groups, the unification of our ethnic groups, and the development of our ethnic groups. That is where it starts. So I'm not sure why he senses that. So I think as we've come to the end of today's session, we'll continue with this discussion next week, part 4. I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame.
Just said to the brother from the US, AAPRP, will get in touch with you so we can talk. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brother Comrade Caesar, can you share your contact in the chat box or directly to myself or Brother Kwame? To end this, I would say that indeed we are moving towards some kind of a solution for what you think is right. And I'll propose, because next week we are actually having Africa Liberation Day. And to our traditions as CHG, we do host a conversation around the liberations on Thursdays of 23rd and Saturdays. So we'll be using 2 of our classes to actually discuss the Africa Liberation Day. And I think, Brother Kwame, if that's right, this conversation need now to be moved into those thematic areas in that liberation. As we look at the liberation of Africa, now not in general context, but rather as being presented here. If you look, for example, in the education system, who can either have 10 or 15 minutes to tell us what do they think in terms of the liberation of Africa, in terms of its education system, and what should be done in that line so that we see a liberated Africa. Then we now start the conversation after this on how to arrive on that conference, for example, of education, the same way you propose on the law system, maybe the Constitution of Africa, and we move even to the spirituality. So we have topical discussions, either people who might be willing Like I know Brother Nkrumah will be willing to share something on spirituality. So we'll give you time for Saturday. We have actually to 4 speakers next Saturday, next Thursday, to share their 20 minutes thinking or thoughts in regards to each topics that we share in economics, in politics, in health, and in education. Those are the key areas we'll start on Thursdays. So on Saturday, we'll go direct towards the issues with spirituality, constitutional law, military, and those other aspects that we'll identify. But the key concern in that liberation is to analyze one thing. Are we really liberated? What's the state of Africa in this? And what is the practical solution? So that the next year, before we meet the next liberation, we should form up a commission or a committee or a technical working group or a conference for constitution, like Brother Kwame said about the law, so that we can actually start having practical, unified documents that push us towards this action. Because we are a class for thought and action, not only thoughts, but thoughts accompanied with action. So I believe together we can do this. So that's where we're looking forward to. So we welcome you, comrades, and we will either share this further in the due course on Thursdays, coming Thursday and Saturday for Africa Liberation Day, where this conversation will move to almost part 1, 5 of it, towards these thematic sessions. So thank you very much for that, and let's meet again on that coming Thursday and Saturday. Brother Kwame, maybe if you have something to share.
Yeah, so Brother Pigeon, just so we're all clear, on Thursday and Saturday next week is African Liberation Day, correct?
Yes.
So there will be, so CSU will hold sessions on that.
Yes.
And you will be sharing. So anyone who wants to present should get in touch with you. So we organize presentations for those 2 days. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. The time is 9:03. We'd like to thank you for coming. And as Brother Pigeon said, he will share the posters. And so for your information, next week is African Liberation Day. We didn't play the anthem today. Hopefully we'll play it on Thursday and Saturday. That's it. Thank you very much for coming.
Brother Kwame, before you end, do you want to say anything about the Zoom collection?
Oh,
yes, I think
because it's at the beginning of June.
Yes, I think we have contacted anyone who is interested. Brother Pigeon has.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
so
maybe you could just make an announcement about it.
Let me make that announcement.
Yeah, Brother Pigeon, carry on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we've been running as a class. We decided to move to Zoom account. So we've been doing our Zoom sessions on Zoom because many people could not access the Microsoft team we were having all the year. So our subscription for the next year is due on June 6th or 7th, if I'm not wrong. And we are actually mobilizing for people who are willing to give any amount they can be able to, so that we can subscribe for the next year. We've been able to achieve a lot over the 1 year of having uploaded over 100 sessions on our YouTube account. It's reached almost over 30,000 impressions on YouTube. We've amassed another number of many people out of this Zoom. So we request those who are willing actually to find a way on how they can donate to this conversation, so that we continue this conversation, to kindly get in touch. I'll actually share my contact just for maybe a minute for anybody who might want to text me directly, so that you can actually show your interest, and then it'll guide you how you come in and support. Thank you very much for the Sister Ida. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, it is clear. And
wonderful, thank you.
It's good. Just so everybody knows, the Zoom that is going to expire, the money was contributed by five of us, or 5 people, including myself and Sister Ida. Some of them are not here, but they believe in what we are doing. So, I think we need about 144 pounds to renew it. So if you can help, please do. The struggle continues.
And if I can just add on that very quickly regarding the support for the Zoom line. Yeah, I mean, there are 20 of us on the call right now. If each of us give £10, problem solved. That's
unfortunately, brother DJ, that's not how fundraising works. But
I know it's not how it works, but if let's use our consciences and minds to look at things in a more rounded way. And
point taking. Remember, in fundraising, you always find some people give more than others. It's just the way it is.
Okay,
although we make the point, the equal amounts. Yes.
Kelly, find it free to end the recording. I think you have the rights to do that.
I think brother DJP was the one that was. So brother DJP, can you end the recording, please?
Yeah, sure. Oh, well, you want me to stop it now? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, cool.
And I'm not happy we finished at 9:06.